Now it's time to, turn over our other shoulders. We take a look at Tesla going the other direction. Joining us here in studio is co-host of Fast Market, Tom White, for more on what's driving the stock lower. Now we know it's earnings related, Tom, but I looked at this, kind of as the results came out. Premium sellers delight, almost no movement. I guess then this thing called the conference call with the execs set the stock into a downward spiral.
Yeah, I think this was a conference call that the first time I've listened to Elon Musk where he was pretty downbeat about everything, not only the economy, but just in general. His personality was a little bit weaker than a lot of people expected on this conference call. They missed on EPS, they missed on revenue. Revenue was up 9% year over year, but missed estimates of $24.1 billion, came in at $23.4 billion. First time they missed on EPS and revenue since the second quarter of 2019. So not a good start there. If you looked at gross margins, on a gross basis, 17.9% versus 25.1% in Q3 of 2022. So year-over-year numbers continue to decline. We've talked about repeatedly about the cost or price of their automobiles getting cut across the globe. They're trying to make efficiencies, but they're also spending too. And I think that was one of the caveats in the conference call, was that they continue to spend on AI, R&D, the Cybertruck, getting that up to production. Now, I think a lot of people were expecting the Cybertruck to be that catalyst that's going to drive the stock higher. They've got 1 million orders for it, right? Where you put down, I don't know, what is it, $100, $200 or something. They got 1 million orders for it, but they're not going to see any accretive probably margins or revenue from this that's profitable for 18 to 24 months. So that's probably another thing that hit the stock, was expectations pulled back a little bit for ramping up Cybertruck.
For clarity, real quick here, when you're saying they're pre-orders, right? It's basically you're buying an option for the right to buy this thing down the line. These people aren't locked into buying these Cybertrucks,
no, not at all. You can just let it go. Yeah.
Yesterday, I said this thing's like the Vision Pro, and I stand by that. Like, these are two things that you see way too much coverage of.
Right.
They're really expensive, but they seem so niche. Like, I will be surprised if I see a Cybertruck driving around Chicago. I don't care how many they sell.
Well, you say that now, but then every time I see like a car that I'm not a fan of, and I see a bunch of them driving around the streets of Chicago, I'm like,
oh, I'm a fan. I just don't know how many of these are going to be driving around.
But okay, the one thing I will say, it's affordable. It's supposed to be like a relatively reasonably priced car. I'm a fan of the Cybertruck. But what I will say is that when looking at Tesla, margins were something we talked about for the last month into this report. We already knew deliveries. So was this really as big of a surprise as perhaps the price is telling us? I guess you can't argue with the fact that it is down 9%, but I've looked at this report. Nothing to me was a huge shock, other than the fact that Elon Musk was relatively downbeat. Actually, Wedbush calling it a mini disaster of a conference call.
Yeah. I think more than anything, the margin compression is not surprising, right? It's still above the OEMs in the space. So that's a positive. And, they've got the UAW strikes. Is he trying to get more volume, right? And then he's talked about a lower price car. He talked about interest rates being a headwind for the consumer right now. You can't buy a car right now because interest rates are so high. So he talked a little bit about that. Maybe that's the overall sentiment that he's feeling in the economy in general. So take that into consideration, that maybe sales aren't going to be as robust. But he did say 1.8 million cars going to be sold this year.
Last thing real quick here, Tom, my question to you. How much of this is a guy that we're not used to seeing downbeat?
Yeah.
As much as people are investing in Tesla, this seems like investment in Elon Musk, you could argue sometimes. And for a guy that's seen as sort of optimistic, forward-thinking, innovative, to have not even necessarily not that, it's not like he isn't confident in the things going, just a little bit more negative, a little bit more non-Elon-like. Do you think that's more the story here than even the numbers?
I think it's part of the story. I don't think it's more of the story. I mean, there's no flamethrowers getting sent out during this.
No shot puts through windows.
Exactly. But that being said, I think the macroeconomic environment's really worrying him at this point. They did put some costs into the production lines also. They talked about opening that factory in Mexico. He's probably going to push back on that a little bit until they get some efficiencies in place. But not a good report. And look at valuations, Alex and Jenny. That's one of the key things I think people are starting to figure out. And I think that's what a lot of people had questions on. Is it an auto company, or is it a tech company? Is it a hybrid of that? Because if it's an auto company, valuations have to come down even more than what the stock's selling off today, 9%, because it just doesn't equate to the numbers. But that being said, Elon Musk in the past has figured it out. We'll see if he can figure it out again, but I think it's going to be maybe a quarter or two before we see some more fireworks. Watch November 30th. That's the official launch date of the Cybertruck, and we'll see how many they can produce.
I'm telling you guys, I'm going to get a Cybertruck, and then we can do like a full tour of it. I mean, it could take a few years, but I'm getting one of those Cybertrucks. But good point about valuation. I think that's been the bear versus bull debate for quite some time. But can't argue with the fact that we're down almost 9.5% on the session. Yep. Thank you, Tom, the co-host of Fast Market.